Hi, my name is Daryl Franklin. I am one of the trainers here at Big Hairy Dog. Today we're going to take a look at using Account Link with Retail Pro and with BusinessWorks. The screen we're looking at is the home screen for your Account Link. From this home screen, we can go to Options. We can go to Preferences, and we can set up how we want Account Link to behave. We choose what accounting software we are going to connect to. You can see we have choices of BusinessWorks, Mass 90, Sage 100, and QuickBooks, and we can set it up for any one of those. I've got mine set up to work with BusinessWorks. Under that setting over here for BusinessWorks, I tell it where my BusinessWorks is located. That allows me to access the BusinessWorks itself and to set up my account link to send information where I want it to go to. To send information in QuickBooks to where I want it to go to, I choose Store Account Manager. And I have two stores. I have my Store Account Manager set up. I've got it set up to combine my 4 different credit cards currently. I have American Express separate from the Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and Diners. I also have debit showing up separately. Over here in my Define Accounts, I tell it exactly where everything is going to go to. If I choose one of these accounts and I click on the little page symbol here, it shows me where that account is pointing to. If I choose a different account, it will show me where that one is going to. And I can set these up to send information wherever I want them to go to in my BusinessWorks chart of accounts. I can set them up so the entire company goes to the same account, or I can go up here and I can set up each company separately and have each one go to its own set of accounts. When I've got everything set up the way I want, I can do check chart of accounts, and it will check and make sure that all the accounts I set up match the valid accounts in my BusinessWorks. So when I'm all done, I save my changes, and my account link is ready to go. One of the first things I do when I am setting up account link for the first time is I want to initialize my customers and initialize my vendors. That sends all of my existing customers over to my BusinessWorks software. It says they've been updated. And I can do the same thing for my vendors, and it sends all of my vendors over to my BusinessWorks so that I can ensure that they all agree between my Retail Pro and my BusinessWorks. At that point, I am ready to start bringing information over. To bring information over, in Account Link, we do what's called read a batch. So I go to batches, and you can see I have 4 different kinds of batches I can read. I can read receipts, I can read vouchers, I can read slips, and I can read memos. Receipts are your daily sales. It also includes your accounts receivable. Vouchers are your vendor invoices and the merchandise that you receive into your Retail Pro. Slips are stuff you transfer between stores. Memos are adjustments you make to your inventory that don't involve a receipt, a voucher, or a slip. So once we decide what we want to read, we choose that area. So I want to read my receipts. I can see a former batch that I read. I'm going to go up here to read. I'm going to tell it I want to read a marked batch. I want to read my sales from today. Down here, it says, when am I reading for? I'm going to read for 3/5 through 3/5. So one day only. When you're reading receipts, typically you do only want to read one day at a time. Because if you plan to reconcile your checkbook with your business works, then you need to make sure that you're only reading one day at a time, because that's the way the information is going to come in from the bank. So I have that selected. I'm going to tell it OK. It's going to go out, look at my Retail Pro, bring a summary of that data over into my account link. And I can see a summary of what's happened. I have what account are we dealing with? What account number is that account attached to? I've got a batch debit and a batch credit. I also have a doc debit and a doc credit. The doc debit and doc credit apply to one individual receipt out of my Retail Pro. My batch debit and credit is the summary of all the receipts. So I made a mistake when I read this batch. You'll see this one says I read from 11/18, because we can see here in the list the dates of the receipts I read. That's not what I wanted to read. So I'm going to unmark this batch, say yes, unmark it. I'll then delete it. It's important always that you unmark before you delete. I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread. I'm reading 3/5/19 is my batch description. The receipts I'm going to read are going to be from 3/5/19 through 3/5/19. And I will say, OK. I've also told it to read a single batch for each store, which means that if I have a batch sales from both stores, I will see each one separately. I will say OK. I get my receipts, and I can see this time they are all from 3/5/19. Back in my form view, I get the summary of what has happened. I can see that I had 8 transactions on that day. I can see the first transaction I have is document number 57 in my Retail Pro. I can see that was a receipt for $95 cash. The receipt had merchandise sales of $87.99, sales tax of $7.39. I can also see that the cost for those goods was $40, and the inventory adjustment it makes is $40. To know if this is a good batch, I look at a couple of things. Down here at the bottom, I look at the totals for my batch debit and credit. I don't really care what the two numbers are. I just want to make sure that whatever it is, they are both the same. The next thing I do is I verify my merchandise sales number. To do that, I go into Retail Pro, or I look at my paperwork. I go to my X out, Z out. I can look at a former Z out. I choose the one the way I want to look at it. I choose my 3/5, and on 3/5 I can see here that my sales were $1,047.99. And I look at the net sales numbers, because if you have returns, then the sales number is not going to match your net sales. So you're looking at the net sales number. That $1,047.99 should be the exact same number I have over here in Account Link, and it is. So since that number matches and these two match, that tells me this is a good batch. I'm ready to post this batch. When I post the batch, that's going to send this information over to my BusinessWorks. So I hit post. I choose what day I'm posting for. I post by the store. I say OK, and it sends that information over to my BusinessWorks. It says everything went over OK, and so I say OK. I can go to BusinessWorks. I can look in BusinessWorks. I could go to my general journal. I could run a report to take a look at my journal entries. And I can look at just my current journal entries. I can preview. And I can scroll down here and find the journal entry for 3/5. And I can look here and I can see there's my merchandise sales number. I can see what account everything went into. And so everything went over just like it should. Everything looks good. I also had, within this batch, some accounts receivable. I can go to AR. I can run a report, or I can go look at a customer's record, and I can see what happened in accounts receivable. If I look at an open invoice report, I can see that on 3/5, I have an invoice that was created. So that information goes into my BusinessWorks. I can also, in my account link batch, and now that I have posted it, it's gone here to my archive batches and it will stay there. Whenever you finish doing things in Retail Pro and Account Link, you want to make sure that there's no active batches left in Account Link, because that means you've got data that you haven't dealt with, and you want to get it out of there. You want to either post it or you want to unmark it so that it is not left in active batches, because every now and then we've seen Account Link hiccup, and when it does, it gives you an error when you try to open it. To fix that is fairly simple, except if you have any things that was previously read and not posted, it's a real pain to recover those things. So you want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. So just make sure there's no active batches and you won't have a problem. Now, with BusinessWorks and Retail Pro, BusinessWorks and Retail Pro can talk to each other and exchange balances back and forth. So I'm going to go to my Update Customers, and that's going to send back over to my Retail Pro the information from my accounts receivable that was in my BusinessWorks. So if I go over here and I take a look at my list view, I can see here that John Blue had a charge for $173. And so if I go to my Retail Pro and I go look at John Blue, I should see that he has that $173.44. So it indeed brought that balance back over to my Retail Pro. All right. Next, I have some vouchers that I want to read over into my BusinessWorks. So I'm going to go back into Account Link. I'm going to click the back button so that I can choose my vouchers. From my vouchers, I want to read a voucher batch, and I want to read everything up to today. As part of that reading, I want to include February, just in case something snuck in that I may have missed. I can also create a single batch for each store, or I can lump it all together. And I say, okay. And it goes over and finds 2 vouchers in Retail Pro. I can post these. Generally, it's not a bad idea that before you post them, to do an update to your vendors, just to make sure that your vendors are completely up to date before you post it, and that you haven't changed any data and remarked a vendor as export to send that information over to your BusinessWorks. So now that I've updated my vendors, I can go to post, and I can choose today's date. I can say okay. It will send those vouchers over to my BusinessWorks. I can say okay. I can do an update again, since I do talk back and forth both ways. I can go to my BusinessWorks. I could go to accounts payable. I could choose one of my vendors, and I could look at the transactions they have, or I can run report for open invoices, and I can preview that. And I can see here that I have those 2 vouchers that we just saw over here in Account Link. We can see they're both dated 2/15. We can see the totals on them are the 29.20 and the 7.50. So indeed, those vouchers did read over from our Retail Pro into Account Link, and then we were able to post them into BusinessWorks. With vouchers, you can read a day at a time, a week at a time, a month at a time, whatever makes sense for you based on the amount of voucher traffic you have and how often you want to read over your vouchers so that you can pay those bills. We could also read slips to see if we transferred anything between stores. They read exactly the same as with vouchers. You would choose slips. You would choose read. You can choose marked. If you see preview and you read a batch as preview, all you're going to be able to do is look at it and throw it away. You will not have a post option. So if we choose marked and we tell it I want to read from February 1st through today, and I say okay, there was nothing to read because I haven't transferred anything between stores. Memos, we can also see if we had any adjustments that didn't involve a receipt, a voucher, or a slip. We read those, and again, we choose marked. We choose the date range that we want to read for, what date we want to end reading. We say okay, and I did find an adjustment memo for $70 that occurred on February 15th. If we go to form, I can see that we're going to be adjusting our inventory, and we're going to offset that with a memo offset account that we have, an inventory adjustment account. I can post that. I say okay. It's going to send that over to my BusinessWorks, and it will make an adjustment to my total inventory value by that $70. So AccountLink and Retail Pro talk very smoothly with each other. Posting is very simple. It's as simple as hitting the post button in BusinessWorks and Retail Pro. Stop that. In AccountLink, and that will send over your totals to your BusinessWorks. And then in BusinessWorks, you can deal with the transactions as you normally would. You can pay bills. You can run reports. Do whatever it is that you may need to do, because that data is going to be over in BusinessWorks for you to work with, and you won't have to manually enter all of those numbers. So if you have any questions about using AccountLink with BusinessWorks and with Retail Pro, just let me know. Again, my name is Daryl Franklin. My number is 916-368-1070. My email, if you have a question, is Daryl F. That's DARRELLF like Franklin at BigHairyDog.com. And if you got a question, you can give me a call or drop me a note. I'll do my best to answer it for you. So have a great one, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.